recording this webinar here and just say hello. My name is Kirsten Holst and I am running this webinar. I am the training department here at PCSCHEMATIC, so I am the person who does the training in Denmark, and I'm also the person who occasionally goes abroad to do training. That's quite nice, so just call for me if you want to. I'm also the person making those webinars and YouTube videos, which, in case you didn't see them yet, you are most welcome to go and have a look there too. Today we're going to have a webinar around how to create your own components in the database. And when we create our own components in the database, we use a component wizard, as I wrote here on this page 1 here. And I'll simply just start by telling you why do I think that, or why do we here at PCSCHEMATIC think that using components instead of pure symbols is the only right thing. First of all, if I go up and say I want to create a new project, I can do that like this, create a new project. I have done this in the YouTube videos and that, so I won't explain too much about this here. But if I go in and simply place a symbol, and this is a symbol is just a drawing or an icon of a kind telling that this is a lamp. If I don't add any type and article number, I'll keep this one as a symbol. And that means that if I go in and say I have a lamp number 1, lamp number 2, lamp number 3, I could go in and have a look at my parts list. And in this parts list, I think, by the way, just excuse me, that I have this one here. No, I already fixed that one. If I go in here and update the list, I can go in and you can see that now I need to buy 3 components. 3 components for this project here. And 3 components without article numbers are pretty hard to get. If I go into my components list and update that list, you can see that the components in this project here are P1, P2, P3, and still I don't know anything about those components. If instead of placing symbols I had placed a component, then, and you can see that up here I have some components. If I take a radio lamp, we can call that P4. You can see that this one here has got a type and an article number in it. And if I go up here, and then I could take a yellow one and call that P5. And finally I'll take a green one here and call that P6. Those here components because they have this type and article number. And when I update my list here and update the list, you can see that the 3 that I've placed first, I don't have any data whatsoever about for those components here, but the red, the yellow and the green lamp, they are here and they each also have a socket. This socket comes from the database. It's been defined in the database that each article here needs a socket, and accessory, additionals, whatever you call it, we call it accessories. And you can also see that I have a manufacturer stated here in this list, so it should be easy for me to find those components. That's a parts list. You can see here parts list. If I go to the components list and update that one, you can see that again my red lamp consists of this red lamp and a socket, yellow lamp and a socket, the green lamp and a socket. I have got a manufacturer and I've got red lamps or descriptions for each component. This here comes because the component is in the database. So that's the main reason why I want to create components in the database instead of just drawing with symbols, because the symbols they only show the component function. As in here you can see it's a lamp with a resistor in front of it, but that's the only thing I know about this component here, whereas those that I have here, just drag it a little bit here, you can see they come with also connection type names, and in the pop-up you can see type, article, description and accessories, and that's a normal thing to have in the database. If I go into this demo project here, you can see that apart from just pure data like that, when I have components in my database, I could take something like this one. You can see I can add pictures of my components, and in this case here I also have a catalog or data sheet. So I can simply open this data sheet from within my project as long as I have created those components in the database. And that's the reason why I want to have those components instead of just having the symbols in my database. So that's where we start from. So that's the reason why we want to do this about the database. When I have the database, and then we'll go back to go to this one here. When I have my my components in the database, I can add a lot of different things, a lot of different information about my components there. We have from version 19, which is just about to be released outside Denmark, and this is one that I'll show you now. Then we have this this component wizard here, which will take you through the creation of components. And very far along the road, it's self-explanatory. There's a lot of help here, and you can close it when you think that you know all about it, but there's a lot of help help information here at the right side that you can look through when you want to create new components. We can go in and create new components in this one, and I'll simply give you a guided tour of the options that you have in this component wizard here. So this is what the webinar is all about. I'll take you through how to create some, we could call them normal components. That could be lamps like the ones I just showed you. It could be contactors, because they're more interesting as they have a lot of different symbols. They could be components with accessories. They can be components with data sheets and that. Normal components. And then we have the wizard here can create some different kinds of components that I'll show you too. So that will be it. And what I forgot to tell you when we started this webinar is that it's possible throughout the webinar to ask questions. There's a question pane at the right side of your screen too. So if something that I explain you is unclear, you're very welcome to type a question, and then my colleague daughter is here, and she'll forward the question to me. She'll probably write it down, I think, or drag me to her screen to have a look, and if it's possible, then I'll answer the question here. If something is a little bit more unclear, or if tomorrow you sort of come along something and say, how come so and so, then just write me, and you can reach either one of us at this web seminar, I think it's called, at PCSCHEMATIC.com, the same one where you get this reminder email from. So web seminar at PCSCHEMATIC.com. You're very welcome to write if something pops up after this webinar too, in case you have any questions. So let's go on. So I'll not take you through the setup of the database as such, because as long as you just download a demo version of the program, this will be the normal setup. Apart from one thing, but that I'll get back to here. So if I want to create a new component, I go up here. You see I have this icon here, component wizard. W is a shortcut for wizard. So if I open it, I can go in and say I want to create a new component. If I have a new component, I can give it a new article number, and I think that 123400 I think that's where we'll start today. You can see it says article number here, and then in parentheses it says EAN number. That's because our main lookup ID in the database, that's the EAN number or the barcode. Maybe it was easier to write barcode, but here in Denmark it's called EAN number. So that's what we call it. This barcode number is not thick, thin. It's got a number on it, and you can see that if you have a component and you have the box, then you can see this barcode number, and this is a number that you can type in. Our normal barcodes here anyway, they follow a standard called EAN 13. So if you type a number that fits into this standard, then the program here can create barcodes for your parts list or components list. So if you use that, then that's pretty smart actually. But you start by typing an article number, which could be anything but an EAN number, but you need to have a unique order number, article number for each component. And here I just invented that number here. So I could give it a type 2, and in my database I will write this article number in EAN number. I'll write the type in type, and there are 2 data fields that I have in my database. Then in my database I have what we call a table code, and the table code simply defines what kinds of components do I have. And just for this first one that I'm going to make here, I would want to make, maybe not, it won't surprise you I think, but some filament lamps. They're like the red and green and yellow lamps that I just showed you earlier on. If I go down and say the new component that I'm going to make is such a lamp, I can click OK, and then it will get the table code number for filament lamps. And a lamp is what we call a normal component, so I'll click Next. The first thing that I do then is that when I want to create my component, I need to choose diagram symbols. And diagram symbols, I can add them, and the program or the wizard here, it will look up in the database and see what kind of symbols do I usually use for this kind of component. So when I say add symbol, it will look up, and you see filament lamps here. It will look up in the database and see, in this component group of filament lamps, what kind of symbols do you use? And here I use this lamp symbol, and then some different boxes that I have used for different purposes. Always examples, all my weird examples in this group here. But when I selected this lamp here, you can see that I had this lamp symbol, and I have the component terminal names here, the connection terminal names X1 and X2. If this is a name, or the names of the terminals are X1 and X2, then everything is okay. But if you have a special lamp where the connection terminals are called Y1 or Y2, simply type it in, and you can see at the picture up here that then the component will have those names here. So that's it. And then you can also give, and actually I recommend that you can give your components a reference ID, and this reference ID up here, as you can see, it's a letter code for component name, and it's the names are according to this ISO IEC standard 81346-2, and lamps are something that shows or presents signals or information. So a lamp is called a P. I know that because I've created a lot of components, but otherwise you can look into this standard, and I think that when you look through a lot of your documentation, P's are something that present, and you can have K's for something that controls something, and you can have B for sensors, and that, and all those letter codes come from this standard here. So I think it's a good idea to do that, because it keeps you sort of awake on the kind of lettering that you use with the component. But okay, now we're finished here. Those are the diagram symbols, or the diagram symbol that I use for this lamp here. And then I'll simply go to the next tab here, and that's my mechanical symbol. I can go in, and again I can look up in the database and see what kind of symbols do we usually use for this kind of component. And if it looks like all the other lamps, I could take this one, or I could go in, delete it, and go out and say that the only thing I want to have is a circular figure that simply illustrates what it looks like when I place it on the front of my panel. And if my radius here is, could be 10 millimeters, then I could put it up here and then it would look like this. On my mechanical page, I don't add any connections yet, so I'll simply just leave it with a circular symbol here, and then it would look like this when I place it on my mechanical page. Then I can go to the next tab with other diagram symbols, and in the database is set up saying that, and that will be for power components or components where you apply some kind of power on, you could add single line symbols. This lamp is not relevant to add a single line symbol. That's pretty hard to say. So I'll just skip this one. But the next page here is quite interesting because here I have accessories, and basically, and this goes for all components in the database, basically I can add different kinds of accessories. I can add something in accessory, and accessories, that's what we could call fixed accessory. You saw just earlier on that I had this socket for my lamp, and I didn't attach it anywhere, it just came because it was in the database. If I want to attach accessories that is not selectable as such, but it's just there, we call it fixed, then I could go in my database and say I want to add this kind of fixed accessory, find it somewhere in my database, and I'll just make it bigger, but probably easier. And I know that this socket here is in the same group as the other lamps, and say then this lamp here, it will be fixed because that's what fixed accessories are all about. But it might also be that, and then I just remove it here, that I could have two different kinds of sockets, meaning that I could choose between two different sockets, and in that way it should not, or it could not logically be fixed accessory. Then it would have to be something that I could select from, or we call it selectable accessories, and then I could go out and say, okay, I could select this socket here, or I might select or choose between another socket. I don't have one, I can just add this one. So when I place this component here, I could choose between either one of those, or I could simply not choose any accessories, and that is mechanical accessories. Fixed accessories, I never see them before I go to my parts list and components list. The mechanical accessory is something that I will select when I place my component in my diagrams, and then I will see this mechanical accessories on my arrangement drawing. So that's another kind of accessory. And then finally I can have some electrical accessories too. I think it's easier just in a second, and I'll show you the differences of those accessories. But the way to add it is this way. I'll simply go in and select on this page in this component wizard and say, what kind of accessories could I add to this component? And then they are here, three different kinds of accessories, fixed, mechanical, or electrical accessories. And then that's it, and then I'll go to the next page here. Then what you saw too in this demo project that I had before was that I could select a picture for each component. In the database setup, I have set up some, we call them aliases, some folders where I have all my pictures, and the name of those folders, or my alias names for all those folders, is pic for pictures, and doc for documents or data sheets, and then I have some sub-drawings which I'll not going to go to. I'll not show you anything about those today. But those pictures is simply displayed on my PC. And if my lamp looks something like this looks very PLC-like or something like that, but just take, which one should we take? This one is yeah, just take this picture. Then I have selected this picture here, and I could go out and select a data sheet, and that would be from another alias. And then I know that this is our PLCs too, but I'll just take one of those. And you can see that in here it will simply write this pig alias and the dog alias, and then it will write the file name here. Don't worry about that. You don't have to type it. The program will type it for you. So just select it, and then when you're happy with it, you click the next page here. And then on this page here, you can click manufacturer, and if it's me, that I'm the manufacturer, then simply write me or you could select from the list of all the other manufacturers, because a lot of times when you want to create a new component, it's simply because you have a new component and it's probably from one of the manufacturers that is already in the database. So you can select it from the list, or you can write it. You can also write a supplier or a source where you buy it, and simply type the name of that one here. You can give it a description, and I think in this version here, my description is my Danish description, so call it dimser, means yeah, gadget or whatever. So and then I can write a description and in Danish and in English here. If I want to add any remarks on this component, I can type it here. I can type a height. I'll not talk more about that today. And if it's approved, meaning that this is one of my preferred components, and it will be because otherwise I didn't want to create it like this, then I'll give it a tick here and then say, this is my component. I'll go to next, finish and close. And if I go to the database, you can see that this one was the one that I just created. You can see now I have the picture here. If I double click in here, you can see that up here I have my catalog sheet. It looks like this, surprise, surprise, because I selected some I think, yeah, close all tabs. And in this mechanical accessory, you can see that now nothing is attached, but if I want to select from the accessories that I had, I can select or choose easily between those two type of accessories that I attach to this component. So if I want to attach a socket here, I can take it, or the function box, whatever, and then I can select it here, and it will be part of this component. Whereas, because we never came to that, you can see that the ones that I had here, if I double click here, you can see that here it's in italics, and that's because it's fixed, so then I cannot change it. So that's a difference between selectable mechanical and fixed accessories. So I hope that that is clear here. Okay. I promised you one thing, because it was not in the demo project that I just showed you. If I have a contactor, and very soon I'll create a contactor for you. If I have a contactor, when it's created in the database, I create it in the way in the database that it has all the symbols that I need for this component. That means that a contactor, will have you seen this one has a picture too. When I create it, it consists of all the symbols that I have for this component, and then I use this show available window to pick one symbol at a time and say that this is my component, because it consists of all those functions in the same component. And that's normal use, and you can see that in some of the other webinars, and you can see that in the YouTube videos if you didn't know about it, or you can write me, and then I might just send you a link to those YouTube videos, but never mind. But I promised to just show you about the electrical accessories, because I had here this fixed accessory, and the new one that I had, I could select between different kinds of accessories. I can do that here too. This one, if I right click on any of the symbols in this component, I can right click here, and then I can select electrical accessories. And electrical accessories for component like the contactor here, that would be auxiliary contacts, for instance. And then I can simply say that those three are the components that fit together with my base component. And if I select any one of those, I could go up here and you can see now it contains 4 more electrical symbols because that's what it consists of. And then I can place it here, and you can see it becomes part of the same component. It will also be called Q1, and you can see the names of the contact or of the connection terminals. They will be the right ones. And down here you can see that Q1 consists of this article number and this article number. So when I select anything here, then it will be part of the same 2 components, but it'll be a build-up of 2 different components here. And you can see now I only have 1 article number left because that's the auxiliary contact that has this available or free symbol here. So that was 3 different kinds of accessory: the fixed that you cannot edit in the project, then you have the mechanical, which is mechanical accessories, something that you don't connect to or that you don't show in the diagrams, such as sockets, for instance. And then here I have the electrical accessory, which is components or symbols that you can attach to other components, but you show them with normal symbols. You simply give them the same name and you know that they fit together because, yeah, it's been stated in the database. So that's the 3rd kind of accessory that is in here. Okay. I think that you use a lot of those components. So when you work with it, it's not hard to understand. It's simply to see some examples, and in that way it will be easier to see. So that's another kind of component that I'll show you now. Because if I want to make a new component, and I think we started with 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 0, 0, 0, 1, and then we can just have a new one. I don't need to type in type here. If I want to make a new contactor, and I know that contactors, they are in this group here, contactors, thermal relays, electronic motor protection, and I could write 2252, but then it would be too fast. If I wanted to create a component in this group, I could again look up in the database, which takes some time because we need to go through all components in this group and find the different ways of putting those components or symbols together. And even though I'm talking, it does take time, I'm sorry, but here it came. You can see that here I have a lot of different sets of components, and if I'm going to make a new component, I might not want to show from all manufacturers. I might want to show only from selected one, not once but one, and in this case I'll just say the PCS components because they are the demo components that I'm making here. And if I just scroll down, there's a lot of different examples here. If I want to have make a component like this one, then I could go down and double click, and then I'll get all 4 symbols in here. I'm quite sorry because right now you cannot read the real names here, but they are there. So if this is a kind of component that I'm going to make, then simply go to next, and then that would be it. Right now I'll just click next and finish, and then I'll open it again, because in that way I think that it will look better now, and then I'll make a new component here. So because instead of looking up in the database, which would be okay very often, I could also go in and say I want to add a symbol from my symbol folders, because sometimes I have created a new component, a new symbol, sorry, and then I want to use a symbol here. If I want to select a, I think it's an operating device I need first. If I want to use this coil here for a new contactor, I would put that in here, and you can see A1, A2, and that will be correct. If I want to add another symbol, then I will take this one here. Then you can see that a normal make contact is called 11 and 12. 11 and 12 is not a valid terminal connection name. For a make contact, that wouldn't be 13 and 14. So I'll simply write it in here, and you can see in that way it will change. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is that if I have a contact with several contact sets, each set might be selectable as either make contacts or break contacts or switches. So I could go up here and say I want to add an alternative instead. So if I add an alternative to this one, I could go out and say I want to, and I'll just select this one here, I want to have, see this one switched now, I want to have this one here, and at the top it will still be 13 because it was at just before, and this one would be 12 and this one would be 14 because here's the switch. So what I could do was I could add one more alternative and say that I wanted it to be either a, where is it, it's here, this one, and this one would be again 13 because it's a common, and then this one would be 12. And that means that I have 11, no, I have 13 and 12 and 13 and 14, and then those are the terminal names that I can use for this contact set here. That is quite okay. If my contact contains more than one contact set, I can go up on this one here and say I want to copy, and then I only want to make one copy now. And then I could go up here and say this one here should be now in the second set. It should be 23 and 24, and I'll need to scroll down here and say that this one could be 23 and 22 and 24, and the final one would be 23 and 22. I didn't prepare this because I think it's easier and it's much better for you to see how I make them. So that's the reason why I just don't prepare a lot of stuff. I want you to see how easy it is to make it. Then going to the mechanical symbol, I think we went through that just before. I don't want to do that. But if I want to have for this contact a single line symbol, I could add a symbol, but I don't because I didn't add any power symbol to this one, so I'll just skip this one too. And then you can see accessories, fixed accessory like sockets and that. No. Mechanical accessories, yes, I could select probably between different mechanical accessories as well. But if I wanted to add here electrical accessories as in different auxiliary contacts, I could go down and say, yes, I want to have up here, which is this one, I think, and I could click here and say, wonder why, yes, I have here, I have those different ones here, so I'll click on this one and add one more. And it would be quite good if it could remember where I was, but it doesn't. So in this case I'll only add 2 different ones. But you can see how easy it was to go in and say I could select between those 2 auxiliary contact units that I have here. So when that's okay, I could go in, which I don't want to do now, but get a picture, get a data sheet, could go in here, select the manufacturer, make a description, go in and say it's approved. I think I'll do that. But and then when I'm finished here, close, go in the database and find this one. Now I think I'll just write it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I had this last one. This was the one I just created, and you can see this is what it looks like, because what I did was to say my new contact has an activation coil. That's pretty normal, no problem about that one. But on the first position I can select between 1314 or 131214 or 1312. So if I go in and take this one, option 1, I'll click here, and then that's gone. And then you can see set number 2 I have here, and then I can go in and say I'll just have this one, and then take it here, and then everything is gone because yeah, this was the first one I had here. But then I only placed those 2 contacts from it. I went when I made it, I went in and said I have two different contact sets and they can be either make or break or shift contacts. So, and then I selected the correct symbols for each function, but I set it up as what we call alternative symbols in the database, and that's the reason why I can only end up with two different symbols here. Okay, so if I want to go in, that I have a just a second. Yes. Somebody's asking me how to search for description. I'll just show you that in a second, because I think me too that it's hard to remember all the descriptions. I'll just show one more thing before I'll go to this one again. If I have created here, you saw that I had created some electrical accessories, and I just want to finish that one first. And then you can see, remember, I went up and set two different kinds of accessory auxiliary contacts, and then I can choose between either one. You should know yourself that you can choose between them, because the database doesn't set up any limits on you can either choose this one or this one. It doesn't tell you about that, but so you'll have to do that. Maybe you could write in the description or so, but you cannot put that in the database. So, but the only thing I wanted to show you was that you can select it from here, just as I did in the first one. So, okay, create a new component here, because I'll show you one more trick that you can use in the, I'll show you a couple of tricks, but that's it. When I make a new component here, and I can go in and select the table code. The question was how to remember what is in this table code. I'll just say that I don't remember either. That's a true, a very true answer to that question. I think knowing what is where, or where to find what, is simply a matter of using this system here. I have made, and I haven't released it yet, but I have made a table code that is according to this standard I mentioned earlier with the 81346-2, the standard that also contains all the names as in P and Q and K and B and that. And I think in some ways, if you're used to working with the standards, that might be a little bit easier to find your way around. And the only thing is that if you don't have, because you can make your own table code, and that would be the short answer to that. So you can make your own table code. I think I would recommend very, very much that you have a table code, because if you just put all your components in one big bunch instead of saying something, some components are dock rates, some are cables, and some are branch equipment, that actually means terminals, but you need to structure your database, because if you have, as we have here, something like 50,000 components and they're just in one big heap, then you cannot find anything. So you need to make a kind of structure in your database. And but which kind of structure you use, never mind, but you can use this one if you don't have any else, or if you want to, I can help you by finding this this new what I call table code table. I'll be happy to help you with that. But you can also, in the manual, it's quite easy to make your own table code if you want to do that. So remembering or not remembering, training is one thing, but yeah, I think that's, I'm quite famous in-house here for giving very long answers to short questions. So I hope it's okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there is one more question, and I think I'll answer that right now, because there's a question about using different colors, and I can use different colors. I guess that the question is something about the lamps. If I, for instance, had this lamp with red and green and yellow, I could make a lamp containing red, green, and yellow lamps in the same symbol. And when I make my component, I could have it look with the correct color according to the article number. And I'll answer that question here, because I'll make one more normal component here, which is, I'll just give it an article number here. Because when I go in here and I want to select a component, give it a symbol, then up here in this MISC folder I have a special symbol here which I could call a multi-symbol. This multi-symbol is a symbol that's been made to illustrate what you can do with a database when you have a symbol in what we call states. This symbol here is, I think it will be, it's the framework for making what are they called, sensors in the database. This up here has got what we call states. And you can see right now it's a box, but if I select it in the state called DC, then I'll have a DC icon on it. If I select it as AC, it would look AC-like, and if I select this var or variable, then I would have an arrow on it to illustrate that it's a variable. So in that way I can make a lot of symbols in one symbol, and that's what we call symbols in states. One of the YouTube videos actually shows you how to make a symbol like this. It's not particularly complicated, so but in this example here the symbol has been made, and we call it symbol in states. If I want to create a component where I want to illustrate it as being variable, then I select the correct state for that. If it was a red lamp, I would select the red dot. If it was a green lamp, I would select the green dot in a lamp if I had created it that way. But right here it'll be like this. And that's one of the things I can do with the database. Another thing I can do with the database is to see that all our symbols, when we make them, they have just a sequential numbering, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the uneven numbers are on top, as in 1, 3, 5, and all the even numbers 2, 4, 6 are at the bottom. And if I want this one not to be 1, but simply be not there, then I can deselect it, and if number 2 should be A, I can write it. 3 should not be there. That was the wrong one. That was too fast. 3 should not be there. 4 should not be there. 5 should not be there, and 6 should be B. I could write that in the database, and in that way I would control the symbols, looks as in state, and the terminal names by typing in the database, and then the component would look like this. You can see here, if I just click next, next, next very quickly, when I go to the database again and select this one, it looks like this. And don't worry about this part over here because it's always there. But you can see now that this is what it looks like, and it's simply because it's been created in the database to have the correct state and those terminal names. And when you have downloaded the program, as I guess most of you have, then up here in this pick menu you can see an example of the same thing. It's exactly the same component or the same symbol I have used here, and the symbol looks like this, as you just saw early on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I can have it look in various ways. And this has been done by using the database in those way, and it's been typed in exactly the same way as I typed this one here. So that's one thing that you can do too with the database. So I think that could sort of inspire you. I think inspiration is the right kind of word for this. So simply to say that when you make new components, you don't need to make symbols for all of them, and I think that's pretty okay. I think I'll just show you a couple of more components that you can make with this, because the database contains a lot of different components. When I go in here again, I can go up and then forget about the table code right now, because what I want to show you is that I have something we call component kinds. Component kinds The components that I made so far, they were normal, and normal components simply follow the sequence that I just showed you, that you go in and you select diagram symbols, electrical symbols, then you select the mechanical symbols, and then you can select the accessories and data sheets and a lot of other things, and that's it. But the component can also create different kinds, the component wizard can also create different kinds of components. And one is PLCs. PLC has got their own tab here. PLCs are special components. when we make them in the database, it has up to now, and that I guess that most of you have a version 18. And in version 18, I think I started by saying that this component wizard doesn't really contain the same options as we do now. This is version 19, and this is one of the major news that we have in version 19 compared to 18. And in 19 here, we can create we can create PLCs in the database in an easy way. And to do that, we simply go down and select this component kind. When we go in and create database or PLCs, then we start by typing how many channels or addresses. Most times channels and addresses is a synonym for the same. If I go in and say I want to create a input card with 8 input channels or 8 input addresses, I have to type 8 up here and 8 here. The reason why I have to type it twice is that it's a control that I have if I make more complicated PLCs. But what if I only want to create an 8 input card, 8 digital inputs, then I don't need to do any more typings on this page here. So then I'll simply go to the next page, and then I go in and start by selecting the electrical symbol that I use for each address on this PLC here. So if it's a digital input, I could have 2 connection terminals per address. Then I can type 2 up here, and you can see the grid here changed a little bit, and over here I had a little change too, because then the program or the wizard will look through all the PLC input symbols and find the ones that have 2 terminals per address, input terminals. And then if my first terminal is called 1 and the input is called I1, it could be called, and then the next terminal could be called 2, and that could be a plus, for instance. And then I think I need to type a 3 here and a 4 here, and then I could go up and find the grid here and say, I think this looks okay. And then that would be all my terminal names and their functions. They would be here. I could go up here, because I forgot to do that just before, and say what kind of symbols do I want to have. I want to have this one and with a plug and socket on this one as well. And then I need to find my reference card. I don't know how much you use a program, either one of you, but when we make drawings with PLCs, we have reference symbols and we have PLC symbols. Reference symbols are symbols that create overview of a PLC or a card in a PLC and a slot in the PLC. We do it that way because it's sort of mirrored system, but that's how we can control to import I/O lists and keep track of all I/Os in the project. So this is simply just how it is. So I'll just show you how you can make your components that work along with this. And then when I make my PLCs in the database here, I can go up and say that I want to show it this way. I had 2 terminals per address, and then I can select this input input reference system here, a symbol here, and then simply select, I think I'll take this one, either one, and then when I take it into this window here, you can see the terminals are called 1, 2, 3, 4, I1 and plus, I2 and plus, and you can see all the way down I have the same addresses and terminals, and that's it. So if this is how my PLC, what it looks like, then I'll simply click next, and I'll get back to this in another one, because this one runs without power. Don't worry about that. Other symbols for my mechanical, and you can see again diagram symbols, whatever, and accessories and data sheets and whatever, and I'll just skip that. And when I go to my database, you can see that this PLC here looks in this way. I have my reference card, call it K whatever, and down here I have all my inputs, and that means that if this one should be, I could write here that this is not this one here, that my input was alarm 1, and then it would look like this here, and it would also be up here. And or I could go into this one and write alarm 2, that was not alarm 2, and then it would be like this. So that's how I could create one of those PLCs in the database. Early on that could be quite complicated to do this, but that's been so much easier now. I'll just make one more PLC here. If I want to make one more PLC, I hope the number is right, but we'll see about that. If I want to make one more card with 8 channels, and right now they could be analog channels, and analog channels that could be connected as either current channels or current measuring devices or voltage devices, then I would go up and say for each channel I select, this is what it says here, it could be either current sensors, or it could be voltage sensors, for instance, just simply 2 variants per channel. When I connect this one, then I'll write 2 variants here. When I go to this one here and say in one position it would be terminal 1, that would be I1, sorry, I1, and I'll fill the grid. You can see now I have variable 1. If I go down here and say reference symbols, then I would select this one, because I need to have 1 reference symbol per address, because for each address I decide whether it should be connected to this terminal or the other terminal. So again, we are back to this about having alternative symbols, just as I had when I had the make or break contact on the contactor earlier on. But when I make the component here, I go in and say variable 1, and that could be, for instance, it would be nice if I could name it, but it's not, you cannot name it right now. You simply know that your first variable should be either voltage measuring or whatever. Then I can go to variable 2 and say, in this, I hope my symbol was with me this time. I want to have that this one could be, it could be exactly like before, and say this one should be 2 and plus, and this one could be 3, and this one could be 4, and I want to make this one now and say fill grid, this one, and when I go to reference symbol, I hope it says here, and then you can see right now all the each channel is shown here. And what do I really want to do? I think it's easier when you see it here, because if I want to use this component from the database, it looks like this, which could be quite overwhelming. I give you that, but you should understand it in the way that if you take this one, channel 1, and say this one is one method, place it here, give it a name. If I go here, you can see one way or the other way. It's the same components, so that I simply just click here, and if I go and say the rest of the symbols to this one is method 2, this one is also method 2, and right now I'm asking myself, why did I just not make a component with 4 channels, because it would have been so much easier, but now I made it with 8 channels once again. You can see for each channel I simply go down and select what kind of configuration do you have here. So make it and place it here, and then I could go down, select all, and they would be here, all of them. And I see I made some of them with plugs, and some of them I didn't add the plug on it. But now they are working, and I can write something here, and I could go down and write something here. Very intelligent. But this one, in this way, I can go in and say, channel per channel, I let the database show me what kind of what are the terminal names if I want to connect it in this way or the other way. So instead of, you could go in and say I will simply make 8 channels, each with 3 connections, and then select it either way, but sometimes you wouldn't get any help from the database. If you did it that way, then you'd need to go and have a wiring diagram shown so that you could look that one up and see how should I connect this type of sensor to this component. So instead we go down when we make it and say that we make it look this way, and then you can select it one by one. And what happens is that if I go down and delete this one, I'll only delete the symbol here, because you can see now that in this reference here, that's because I took this one here, sorry, I should take that one away too. So if I select, if I delete the I/O, I could go down and say I want to connect it this way instead, and then it will be available as a normal available symbol. So that's quite easy to make it that way with the database as well. It might not look totally perfect right now because I have a lot of names here, but just wait to see version 20. And that one, it might be niced up a little bit, but yeah, that will be okay. I think my colleague tells me that, yeah, time is always going very fastly, passing very fastly, but I'll just show you the last thing about those components here. When I go in and make new components in the database, I could also make jumper links. If I make a jumper link, I'll take this one. You can see I can make jumper links by simply selecting how many links, what does it look like, and how far is between each link. That's one thing I can make, which can be pretty handy if you want to have it on your parts list. I could also create wires. When I create wires in the database, I'll tell it how wide it is, how many millimeters in diameter that my component is, simply because we have a part of the program is called panel router, and in that one you can see how full is a wire tray if you fill it up with wires. And if you want to have a fill factor, you need to know how wide are all wires, because otherwise you cannot see it. And in the same thing here is the wire tray. If I create a wire tray, I would need to know how wide is it and how high is it, and then for my parts list, how long is it, because in that way I could have it on my parts list. And then I could also create cables. If I create cables, which is quite easy, I could go in and say I want to have a cable. And again, I could select the width of it. But if I want to create a 5-conductor cable with numbers, and the last conductor is green yellow, that's it. And then I have created a cable, which is quite easy. And then I could go out and select, that could be plugs for instance, for the cable, and say per cable I need to have one at one end, or I could have 2, one for each end, and in that way it would be pretty easy for me to create a cable. If I had a cable with, I'll just click this one. If I had a cable that was already defined as, for instance, this one, with numbers on it. Then I have, you can see this one, because I selected a cable definition file already. I had all the conductor names or numbers or colors in that, and in that way I could quite easily create a cable here. Those options here are what you can do with this component wizard. The wizard can also do some other things for you, such as, if I go up here, you can make copies of existing components, you could edit existing components. If you had imported a lot of components where you needed to add just a little thing, you could go in and say that you want to edit multiple. If you go in here, you simply see that you can find them by using either something in the type or description or the source or the manufacturer, anything that you have imported into this. Or if you have some components that are not very good, you can delete them. And simply again, it's the same filtering that you go into here. And finally, yeah, I'll just say use it, because I think it's quite easy. I'm not the only one, I hope, but I think it's a very easy way of creating components in the database. A lot of things about settings of the database and that you don't need to take that into account yourself, because simply start using the program and the default settings of this one will make it possible for you to create your own components in a quite easy way. There are some videos on YouTube, I would say, just to finish this, with the old version of this component wizard. Whatever I told you about the component wizard in that video series is still true, but today you can do even more. So if you want to replay this, I'll send you a link with this webinar tomorrow. You could also go out and watch the YouTube videos, and then you know that something more will be possible in very, very few days when we release this version 19. And about using components, simply look through some of the other videos that we have on our YouTube channel. And then I'll just say thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and I hope that you'll join us another time. And then thanks for now, and bye-bye.